we are going to put it on YouTube for others to benefit after this. So without much ado, I would like to invite the first couple to take us through friendship and relationship. What does it mean? What do we have to do to have good friends? Because without good friendship, it's very difficult to have good relationship. And without good relationships, it's very difficult to have good courtships. And without good courtships, it's very difficult to get a marriage right. So we want to take time to break these things down, and then we want the attendees to ask questions, whatever challenges you have, and then we'll see if we can make justice to it. So without much ado, our first couple to take us through relationships, friendship and relationships, is Mr. and Mrs. Aaron Adjei-Jepson. Both of them are engineers. They've been in Kalgoorlie for a few years, married and blessed with 4 kids, and we believe that they will do justice to this topic. So, Mr. and Mrs. Adjei-Jepson, over to you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Peter and Auntie Harriet, for the opportunity given us. We are very grateful for this opportunity. And thank you all, both the people in attendance and everyone online. So we are grateful. I'm Aaron, and this is Akesi, my wife. We've been friends for 18 years and been married only for 10 years. We pray that we would have the strength and grace Pastor Peter and Auntie Harriet has to keep on going on. We are here to talk about friendship and relationship. Friendship and relationship. Someone would say, who is a friend? Who is a friend? A friend would say it's someone we have a bond with. A person whom one has a bond of mutual affection. So that's what we would say a friend is. Going forward, we'll see much more of a friend than just the explanation. We decided to talk a bit of how we started and where we've gotten to as part of this topic. We met about 18 years ago in school, and I'm saying for my part, maybe you should be adding a bit. The first time I saw her, I was like, wow. In Ghana, I would say, fine chick. Yeah. But I'm the very reserved person, so I did not say it to anyone. I said it to myself. So no one knew what I had in my head. But I never approached her till after some time we met at church and just started as hi. That's where we would say we were casual friends. We met on campus, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? That's how we started. Just at church, having a connection, saying hi to each other. And this hi lasted for how long? Almost 4 years of saying hi. Yeah. That has added to other stuff. So we said hi for maybe a year to a year and a half. And one of the days I was in the library, I knew all her friends, but I would not ask anyone her number or anything. So I just picked the friend's phone, flipped through it, saw her number, picked her number. That's how smart I was in getting her number. And I'm sure the friend himself doesn't know that I got her number from him. So I think that very year, it should be around 2018, we were on vacation. It was December, so that's why I called. Hello, how are you doing? And I thought probably it would just be the normal thing, but funny enough, she recognized my voice. Hi, Aaron, how are you doing? Like, wow. How did you figure this out? She was like, yeah, I think I know your voice enough. Wow, nice. So that was a good point. We just had a chat on phone that very year, or that very vacation. That very vacation, we had a chat, and yeah, so we had moved from the high to once in a while giving one another a buzz. So we had moved from just acquaintances to casual friends. So that's our build-up. Can we please get the next slide? No? Okay. So I think I've jumped just a bit. But there's a general thing, before I go on, there's a general thing on how friends meet. We are in Australia, and there are so many avenues how friends meet. We met in school first and at church. Then the rest came. But so many people have how they meet. And these are just examples. It's just to say that you can't make friends whilst indoors. You need to step out to make friends. You need to have a place of interest. That's where, because we say a bond. You can't make a bond without having anything in common. So whatever you feel or you are interested in, just feel free. And Pastor Peter says, be intentional with what you do. Just go and have or do what you really like going to church. So we were fortunate to meet in church as well. Why do we make friends? Socializing, networking, like Pastor Peter has been doing, trying to get people together, share common interest, mentorship to start dating, long-term interest, emotional support, and for fun. So that's a general background of how friends or why we make friends. Next slide, please. Yes. So back to my story. So here in 2018, we had moved from acquaintances down to casual friends, where we shared interest that we say is church, and it's low pressure interaction. If I don't call her, she has no problem. If she doesn't call me, I have no problem. There's no pressure on us. We just keep vibing. If it's once in a year or once in a month, usually it was once in a month. Once in a month, hello, how are you doing? And we talk more on vacation just to check how our vacations were going. And the conversations are not deep conversations. It's as simple as, hi, how are you doing? That's how we went. And after some time, she wants to say something. Come.
So after a while, we shared a common course. So I had to, because of my engineering course, I had to do a mechanical course, which he was a super in it because he did mechanical engineering. So I was struggling a bit because that wasn't my background. I did rocks and I had to learn mechanical. So I had to, go see him for some tutorials. And I think that was where the bond started. Because For me, I wasn't even thinking at all about what was going on because I thought it was just seeking for help, but I didn't know what was in his mind actually. So I had to call him more. We had to interact more because of the course, because it was like almost a 4-month, like a full semester. So I had to go to his room sometimes to go meet him. We meet in the library. We had to do discussions, and he would give me some assignments that I would have to bring back to him. So I think that was one of the things that he was doing just to build up communication between us. So within that period, whatever I had as an issue, apart from even the course that I was learning, we could discuss. So if I had issue, with friends or even maybe a lecturer or anything, we could discuss. So the bond was becoming more intense than like a casual friend. So we were moving from actually just a casual conversation to more intimate conversation.
Yeah. So that's how close, or that's how we became close. And in all these cases, we can see it's channeled into a funnel-like stuff. That's to say, we are filtering. But whilst we're going through, we realize if we turn it upside down, it becomes an arrowhead or a spearhead. So that's how interesting building friendship becomes when we are talking about relationship. So in our case, we became closer because of what the course she had to do and I had to help out. And honestly, in so doing, some of the things should be bringing, I myself had not gotten there. So sometimes, I can't fail. I had to quickly go to the library, research, and get to understand it, because I'll tell, before you come, just let me know when you come. Even if it's 30 minutes before she comes, what topic? I never say I've not done this or I've not gone through. I'll pick a book and make sure I understand before she comes. So I think it also helped me to sharpen my understanding on my own course. So that's the basis of our closeness. And from there, definitely we all have issues and different understanding or ideas as to how to go about issues. We realized usually if there's any issue, whether it's be school, social, family, any issue, the first person that comes in mind is Akisi. If she has any issue, the first person that comes in mind is Aaron. So that's how it built up. We became more than close friends. We became trusted companions, let me say that. So what brought out so much in her is she's very truthful. Now, Aaron, this, I think you were wrong. You could have handled it this way. And that was a strong thing for me, because maybe there are issues I expect you to stand by me, and you say I'm wrong. Yes, I know you wish I could support you, but in this case, you are wrong. You could have done it this way. And if you bring or take your ego out and analyze what she's saying, yes, it's true. So these are some of the trustworthiness that came between, or that brought us closer and closer. She could have issues with families, come to me, I tell her how to resolve it. She'll come back, Aaron, it worked. So it helped us a lot. So going to relationship, one will ask, why the question mark? Why the question mark? In all these, we had so many acquaintances. We had so many casual friends. We had so many close friends. Narrowing down. So it wasn't only her. There are other close friends, both male and female. So why the question mark? What am I looking for in someone to have a relationship with. That's the reason for the question mark. That so many things we'll all be looking for, different things, and we would call it values. Every company has their mission and vision. What you want in a relationship, what you want in the near future, how you see yourself in the near future helps you understand or make these decisions. In my case, what stood out, one of the things that stood out for me was her frankness. Without hurting your ego, she'll tell you the truth. And that stood out for me. That's one of the things that stood out for me, apart from her being very spiritual. Next slide, please. Yep, so I'll let her talk about this.
So before I also come here, what stood out for me was his smartness. He's very smart, and he seemed to have answers to all questions. And whether spiritual, when it comes to book, when it comes to other stuff that you wouldn't even expect that he would have the answer, he would have. And he was very quiet. And this was one of the things that I loved very much, because between the two of us, I talk a lot. But he's always silent. And I loved silence, but I couldn't keep quiet. So seeing him and that trait, I was like, oh, I could learn some silence from this guy. So it also attracted me a lot. So that was one of the things that attracted me. And funny enough, there was one other thing that attracted me. I don't know if you knew it. Is he liked wearing jeans. It's funny, but that is one of the things that attracted me. It's preference. I just loved him wearing jeans. I don't know why he wore jeans today. So those are some of the basic things that attracted me to him. So I think that generally it depends on what you are looking out for, what your goals are, your vision is before you make the move to go into a relationship with somebody. It's because I had a lot of friends in the space of the acquaintance, and then casual and close friends. I had a lot of people that I trusted around me that could help and assist. But when it came to choosing who I would spend my life with, even though we prayed, we also did our physical aspect of it. All right, so I'll speak about, I'll speak about, the importance of building friendship. If we look at the diagram here, we could see that it's a civil engineering stuff. I'm a geologist. I'm a geotech engineer. So I understand a bit of soil and foundations. And so what we are seeing is buildings with foundations in there. We see based on their sizes and then the depth of their foundations. We could see that the very big ones have very deep foundations. The smaller ones have very short or shallow foundations. What does this explain to us? It explains to us the goal of which we pick our friends. What is our mentality? What is our vision for our future of that friendship that we have picked? Some are just relationships just for networking, which doesn't need too much of a deep foundation. If it's just for networking, you just need to have someone which is trustworthy for maybe building businesses. If it is church relationship, you don't need a deep foundation because it's not a long life foundation or it's not a long-term foundation. But if it comes to friendship that will lead into relationship, that will lead into courtship and marriage, it has to be deep-seated foundation because this is what is going to hold the generations that will come after you. So this is generally dependent on what or your vision or your goal is. That is how you build a foundation. And remember that every foundation built or every friendship built in a good foundation brings up a very good relationship or a strong relationship. Next slide, please. Yes, so basically, what are we looking at? We are looking at a foundation like what Jesus Christ, as we are Christians, Jesus Christ spoke in Matthew 7:24 to 27. He says, a wise man built his foundation on a rock, And then a foolish man, as it was stated in the Bible, built his foundation on the picture that is seen to your right. You could see that the foundation that is built on the rock, the turbulence is even higher than that on the right side. But the one on the rock is still standing, as the other one on the sand had fallen. What are we looking at? We are looking at a foundation or a friendship built on right values, built on stronger values, built on just not feelings or something that we normally use as love. We all want to go the easy way. It's built on love, but love is just one word. There are other things that come into play in foundations when it comes to friendship or relationships. So what I also want to say is that every foundation, every friendship, or relationships have times of turbulence. If the foundation is not built right, when the turbulence comes, it will never stand. It will fall, just as we are seeing in the building on the right-hand side. But if it is built strongly on good values and friendship, it would always stand. About 70% of this, as stated online, you can search for it. Study shows that 70% of good relationships are built on strong foundations. Next slide, please.
So, as she has said on the foundation, I think she knows more than me when it comes to this. So I wouldn't talk much. But basically, we know when you're building, the foundation is not just one material. It's made up of stones, cement, sand, water, then iron rods. That's the basic I know. That's the basic I know. So what is the foundation of your friendship? What is the foundation of your relationship? During friendship, just within friendship, there are conflicts everywhere. How do you handle when there's conflict? How do you handle it? How do you handle communication? How do you go about communication? Is it effective? Is it a one person having it all? Or you come and meet on a mutual ground to move on? Those are some of the things we're looking at when we're talking about foundation. Because technically, how you handle your friendship or your relationship evolves to how you handle your family life. Because if I always say, okay, you are right. Okay, let's take it that way. Okay, what you are saying is okay. Let's move on. And we get married, and all of a sudden, I wouldn't continue saying that. How then do I expect our marriage to last? Because what you are building upon is letting one person have a say. There's no positive communication between you. There's no effort to resolve conflict. And these are some things, probably would say red flags. Some people would see and still stick to one thing that can build a foundation. That's love. Yeah, love. But there are real challenges ahead that would need to build a better foundation to be able to stand or withstand whatever is ahead of us.
All right, so I will speak for maybe the females, then he can speak for the males. How do I get ready for a relationship after we have spoken to the friendship as a foundation? And as he has spoken, there are some values that you build during friendship: communication, trust, emotional support, loyalty. All these things come together to build a bond. But what I want to focus on is communication, because communication is what builds much bond. Because if you talk about everything, all the time you are communicating, it brings a bond between the two of you. It establishes some emotional connection. It establishes some mental connection, psychological connection, and then and then a social connection as well. But before you get into building your relationship, you have to build yourself up. How do I build myself up? I must know myself, what I can stay with, what I can deal with, what are the things that I have to work on myself. First of all, I should love myself first, because before I can love someone, even the Bible says, love as you have loved yourself. So if you want to love someone, you must accept yourself and love yourself first. And that is the only way you can hold yourself up, even if you are rejected by somebody. The only thing that breaks us down most of the time is when we don't love ourselves. And someone even looks at us and even says, I don't think you look good. We just get broken because we have not spoken to ourselves. We have not built the mental strength to hold ourselves back and say, I am good the way I look. Somebody might not think that I look good, but I feel I look good because I was created in the image of God. You must love yourself first before you can love somebody. So as a woman, this goes to the women. Love yourself. No matter how you look, whether you have all the goods that you think you should have or not, you are made in the perfect image of Christ. So you must love yourself first. That is the mental strength that you have to build. In so doing, I know someone who a guy went into a relationship with, and I think that it was just based on, I can't tell much, but the guy would always compare her to a friend that she has. Your legs look different like this friend. Your complexion is different from this friend. I want your eyes to look this way. Your lips are not even as sexy as I think, sorry for my word, as sexy as I think it should be. And the lady was always down. So I kept telling her, if you don't appreciate yourself, there is no way he can appreciate you. This is the only way you can build yourself mentally. Appreciate yourself. Love every part of yourself. Appreciate God for what he made you to be. That is when you build here mentally. Whatever someone says, it doesn't really affect you because mentally you are strongly built to love yourself. Then secondly, what are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? Are you ready to step into somebody's life to accept his weaknesses and strength to be part of you? Are you mentally built for that? Are you ready to overlook some of the weaknesses that he has? Are you really ready to bring somebody into your life? You have to ask yourself that question as well. Then the next thing is that you must know what you want. You must at least list 2 or 3 things that you want to see in your life and in the life of the other partner that you want to go into a relationship with. Do you want to just move into a relationship with just anybody? At least you know your values. If you are a Christian, you should know what you want. If you're a non-Christian, you should know what you do. Because you know what the Bible talks about Christians and marriage or relationship. You know what an unbeliever also knows about his lifestyle. So know the values that you want to see in the other person before you take the move. And then you should also manage your expectations. Because he is a human being that you are going to be in a relationship with. Your expectations shouldn't be in the sky. Bring it down. Be open to surprises because there are a lot of things that you would not know as just being close friends unless you move to the next step, and you would see a lot of surprises. That is why you have to be mentally built before you even take the decision to go in there, so that when you see the surprises, it will not shock you. It will not break you down. The other thing I want you also to know is that you must also watch some sacrifices that you would want to make. Before you enter into a relationship, you had known the person from a close friend. You know his weaknesses. If you think you cannot go ahead with it, don't commit. If you commit and you go in there, don't expect a change because it will not change. Know that it is not going to change. You cannot go into somebody's life to change him. If you can't deal with it, don't even move there. He has to change before you commit your heart into it. As soon as you commit your heart, you are in it already. You've created a bond. It's like a web. It is so difficult to break. And even if you can't break it, you have to tear it apart. And as long as you are tearing a web apart, you are destroying it. So you destroy your heart when you enter into something you have not prepared for, something you have not built your mind for, something that you have not built yourself to go into. Learn to keep your values in place. Don't reduce your values to nothing just because you see something beautiful that you want to go in for. Build your mind first. Keep your values. Reduce your expectations, and don't sacrifice what you cannot. Don't sacrifice too much. Keep your heart in God. The Bible says that. Guard your heart. So before you enter into the relationship, if you feel there is anything that is going to break you, protect your heart before you enter. I think that is basically for the women. Thank you.
The women had said it, and I don't think the men will have much to say. Yeah, I think she said much. Yeah, and in all this in a relationship, your best or your surest bet is your friendship. You can know most of these things when you build good friendship. How many of our friends, or in a friend zone, how many people pretend? We have some pretending, but usually when it comes to friends, we are very open. We are very open. So we can say anything and everything we want. Yes, the butterflies would not be as we met 18 years ago, but when it comes to our friendship in our house, I think outside she talks more than me, but when we get home, I think I talk more than her. So that's how interesting it is for us. Because when we are home, it's all about friendship. We have fun. Sometimes the kids will be playing somewhere, and we tell them, don't come to our game. We also have time for ourselves. We are playing our own game. That's what we built for ourselves. Having time for ourselves, playing together, having fun. As we've not had that much fun since we came to Australia, though. But we're still managing to keep it up and not overstress ourselves, because at least she knows if not for the system here, we would have done so many things. But she understands the system, I understand the system, so we find ways around it. We don't overburden one another when it comes to that. So understanding one another, understanding the circumstances we find ourselves in at any point in time is built on how we know ourselves. If we meet and you've not done this, sometimes you would not even ask, but you know now, she's tired today. She's usually very neat in the kitchen, and today it doesn't look that neat. I think she's tired. Just go help her out. That's understanding. That's how much you have to understand it. So friends love at all times. That's friends. The Bible, I don't know why the Bible in Proverbs 17:17 says, friends love at all times. Friends understand one another. Friends devote themselves or their time to one another. If you are in trouble, the very first person you call is your friend. And up till now, I think anytime, anywhere, she's the very first person I'll call as a friend. So that's how strong friendship can build a better relationship. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, I think in all she said that before you move on to the relationship, that's the very spearhead. Let's all look out for the red flags. Don't ever ignore the red flags, thinking, okay, I'll give it a shot and things will change. It would never change. If the stuff or the things are manageable, you go in for. But red flags, don't think anyone will change because he's come into a relationship with you. No. We can only manage to live together, cohabit. Next slide, please. So, in all, we are saying building friendship before relationship is always safe. There's enough time to study anyone you meet. There's enough time to have a chat with anyone we meet. There's no pressure, limited expectation, and friendship as a foundation. There's no pressure. Take your time, have your values, know what supports your values, and pick wisely. There's no fear in friendship. We are always open to anything one says. And the main focus of a relationship is to study each other to make a lifelong decision. So let's always have it in mind that it's a lifelong decision. We work at every decision we make, whether it be professional, in our relationship, anywhere we meet. We work at having the best of decisions. Thank you very much, all of you, and Pastor Peter.
That's amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Adjei-Jepson, for a very powerful input. I hope we are all learning, both online and those present here in person. I will give about 5 minutes for question time. So if anybody have a question in the room or online, please, any question, anything they said that you did not understand, anything you want clarity for, or anything that you understand in a different way that you like to share with us. Anybody happy to ask a question or share a thought? Yep.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I don't know if it's a question or, let me put it so that, I just wanted to say that there are some behaviors that if you are really into the person or you want to go ahead with a relationship, they are likely to change, and I can use myself as an example. I come from a family that I'm the kid in the family, so I would say I was pampered a bit, and so there were some things that getting into the relationship that I felt very strong about, and I could just express myself. That wasn't pleasant for my husband now. And at a point in time, he pointed it out to me. No, it's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah. And I don't remember the last time I did that. So I don't, whether consciously or unconsciously, that kind of behavior that I used to have, I don't have it anymore. So I just wanted to ask Akesi that if the person can never change, I know there are behaviors that are certainly red flags, and so you need to watch out for alcoholism, red flags that you need to watch out for. But I just also wanted to say that there are certain behaviors that your partner can rub on you, and so sort of positively affect you. Because the family that I grew up from, it was okay with that. But rubbing on him, I learned something that, something can change and make you a better person.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for your contribution. So what he's saying is that there are some things that can change, okay? So it's not everything that you are not happy with cannot change. But you have to be comfortable with what you can stay with. Okay, so choose your values, choose what you can live with. And then the other ones, ignore them. Along the way, positive will rub on positive and things will get better. So people can change. Don't just put people in a box and say, oh, this person will never change. People can change. So believe God, pray to God, and move on. But have your own selection. Okay, make a list. My contribution will be, when it comes to the friendship, keep it as broad as possible. Okay, have a large funnel. You saw the triangle. The top was very wide. So open your friendship circle. Have a lot of people in your friendship circle. Both sexes, male, female, but big friendship. And then as we narrow down to casual friends, it narrows down. And then strong bond, strong friends, narrow down. And then by the time you get to the relationships, you make a list. Okay, I had only 2 on my list. But God gave me somebody with 21 different qualities. I had only 2. But make a list. Just make a list of what you can live with, the things you like in a partner. And then fold it on the paper, put it under your pillow, and pray to God and let it go. And you will see what happens. Okay, so I prayed to God. I asked for only 2 things. But I got somebody that have 21 different qualities. Amazing. We serve a God that can do far more than you think or you can ask for. So don't lower your standard, like Sister Casey said. Keep your standard a little high and pray. And then God will top it up to the best. Yep.
Thank you, Pastor Peter, for this forum. This is a bit kind of controversial, but I still want to bring it up so we all take a bite of it. In recent times, you see that parents want their kids to have careers. So the question I always ask, what is the ultimate in this life for a man and a woman? What is the ultimate? I think that the ultimate is to have friendships and relationships. How are we teaching this to our children? Than rather pushing them in schools and they do their masters and they do their PhDs. By the time they put up their heads, they are over 30 years. Then what? So I want to propose that as early as 22 to 25, particularly for our girls, we should be talking to them about settling down, relationships. Even if they are going to school, they should do the schooling by the side. But the ultimate is to find somebody that you will spend the rest of your life with. Than rather to grow old and get a dog and stay with the dog for the rest of your life. No. For the men or for the boys, 30, 35, they should be thinking of settling down, finding a partner to do life with. This is mine.
Thank you very much. I will add that let's do all together. Because if you go to school with people. So make friends with the people in the school. They met at school. Okay. Our next speakers will be speaking to us from Perth. Okay. One question here.
I just wanted to ask, speaking on friendships, maybe for tips or advice, because people come from different backgrounds. We might not all have the same goal going into a friendship that, okay, let's first be friends, then move into the relationship stage. Now in this day and age, someone can approach you directly with the intention of being your partner. And how do you navigate that relationship so that to build a friendship, even though there's an attraction between both people, like, I don't know if my question is making sense. Like, it's to put those breaks, not to go into a relationship, even though both parties are attracted to each other, if that makes sense, yeah.
Can anybody help with
Yeah, thank you. it's very difficult to make very good decision when you get emotional, because I don't know whether it's adrenaline. There are doctors here. There's a lot of energy that enters into your head that this gives you a lot of distraction, and you can't take a very good decision. So I think that if you don't have the basics like the friendship, can you ask the person to, let's take it slowly. Can we start being friends to steady ourselves more? And then if we build that communication and we know ourselves better, let me know your values, let me also share my values, my goals with you. Let us take it easy, take it one after the other, spend a lot of time together. Let's see if we can now, after a few months, decide that we want to add some emotions to it. But when you start being emotions, start on the emotional level from the beginning, it shadows your decisions. When it's not even working, because you are into it, your heart is into it, your emotions are all driven into it, it's very difficult to break apart. That's why I was talking about the web. So now you put yourself under the web already. Okay, we are in a relationship. So what are we even doing? Okay, we have to spend time together. Okay, we have to do this. Okay, we have to do it. It crowds your mind. So if we take it slowly from the friendship, let's know ourselves. Let's spend some fun. Let's have some time out. Let's talk about this. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Rather than getting too much involved in each other emotionally. I think that if you start from, even if the person comes with a relationship, take it back. Let's start from friendship. Let's work it through. After 6 months, you'll be sure. But if you say, okay, let's start with a relationship, after 6 months and you are not sure, it's very difficult to break apart. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yep, it may be easy to break apart, but when you break, you carry a little bit of the brokenness in your heart, and sometimes it's too expensive. And the friendship doesn't have to be 6 years or 10 years or 5 years. But if somebody says, oh, I love you, I want to marry you, say, oh, cool. Can we go for coffee first? Can we go for dinner? If he's the right person, he'll come back. If he doesn't come back, then let him go. Let her go. The right person will come back. She also said something like you have to build yourself first. Okay, so get your emotional, mental strength that you can carry yourself. You are the best of who you are. The right person will come. So yeah, somebody come, we have both attraction, and he say, I want to marry you tomorrow. Can we hold on a bit? Let's go dinner tomorrow. Ask a few questions. And then see if he's the right person, go for it. So it doesn't have to be 2 years before you say yes. Okay? It can be 6 weeks, 1 month, 4 months. It doesn't matter. But make sure you are comfortable with what you are going into. Especially the whole process starts from here. Mind, heart, and then hands. But some of us take it from the heart first. And then when the heart is broken, it's very difficult to protect. So let's all start from here first. Think about it. Think through. Make sure you are comfortable, you are happy. Then you let it drop. But if you drop too quickly, yeah, it's very difficult when it's broken after. So yeah, let's think about it. Let's take 5 minutes break, okay, quickly. You can go to the toilet. You can get some water, get some coffee, and then come back. We have an amazing couple going to speak to us from Perth through the Zoom. So the guys on online, please don't run away. Just go to the toilet, relax for 5 minutes, come back. Let's do the second session. The second session, we'll be talking about courtship and preparing to marry. Courtship and preparing to marry. So take 5 minutes break, go to the toilet, just walk out to the left, and then 5 minutes, come back. Let's do it. Hello, those online, are you ready? We said 5 minutes. We got 8 minutes break already. We want to restart. So, like we have all been talking during the break and having discussion about the first session. So this program has been put together with you in mind, okay? And the progression is well thought out to end in a better marriage. We think that everybody can get a better marriage, but you have to start well. Okay, so we start from friendship. We develop the friendship to relationship. Now we've narrowed down. You know exactly who you are going to marry. You know who the guy is. You know who the lady is. You propose, she said yes. Or she proposed, you said yes. What do we do from there to have a good marriage? And thanks be to God, in Kalgoorlie, we've got a couple that have done it and done it very well. They are in Perth at the moment, attending the conference for doctors, but they decided to log in and share some of their ideas with us. And then after that, we'll have interaction here, ask questions and answer the questions and take it from there. So I'm very excited to introduce to you our next speakers, Dr. Deborah and Dr. Andrew Adeyemi. Did I get it right? Adeyemi.
Yes, I think it is.
Excellent. So, yep, you got the floor. Please let it go.
Oh, can you hear us, Pastor Peter?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and no feedbacks, no echoes. All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Pastor Peter, for taking time out to organize this. So it's very important also that we know that courtship, the first question is just a formal commitment, is the period, the formal commitment towards getting married to someone. And so essentially it's the real deal. It's very, very important. We don't make that decision in a hurry. And someone said this to me, which is quite true, that a broken relationship, or even put it in a way, a broken courtship is better than a broken marriage. And the reason for that is that, we need to understand now that there's a war on marriage, there's a war on family, and it's important that we understand that when the person makes that decision to marry someone, it's not only you that will be involved. Eventually, there are going to be children involved. And if something goes wrong with that marriage and, it all goes pear-shaped, then the children you have from that marriage, in most cases, people have children, they will be the ones to bear the consequence for that. So it's important we don't make that decision in a rush, and it's important we don't make that decision in a hurry as well. So, so that's the reason, that is what courtship is, and why, it's important that we also choose right. Someone made an analogy, which is quite important. You get behind a wheel and you want to drive from, say, from Kalgoorlie to Perth, for instance. If you are the right driver for that car, it's important you understand that it doesn't matter how good you drive. If the person driving on the other side, drives roughly, you can, eventually get into an accident. So when it comes to marriage, it's not only you that is involved. There are other people involved. There's someone else involved as well. So you have to choose right. In other words, you have to be the right person. So as much as, back in the day, people used to talk about looking for Mr. Right or looking for Mrs. Right, it's important you don't make that rush and just try to want to get Mr. Right. You have to be Mr. Right yourself. And the other person on the other side too should be Mrs. Right. So if you're being Mr. Right and you're making that decision, you would eventually you're eventually looking out to make a right decision so that you don't get shipwrecked, so to speak. So it's important that we pick the right person. Otherwise, things can go south. So why courtship? It's a very, very popular statement that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So to plan, courtship is important to help us plan and prepare for a mutually desired future together. It's important that we get that right. To get to know each other, during courtship, that's when we get to know the bits and bobs of, the other person. You're trying to learn to know the person's individuality and also the person's personality as well. You're trying to know essentially what they call the SWOT analysis, the strengths of the other person, the weaknesses of the other person, and the opportunity the other person presents. You tell, and it's during courtship you also talk about things like your vision and your purpose in life, what you're actually all about. Then it's also important because you want to build a strong foundation for marriage. So Aaron and Akesi gave a very, very good analogy of that foundation, which was quite very, 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 very good. You don't build on a weak foundation, you build on a strong foundation. So, and yes, just before we get onto this slide, it's important we also know that you set a time frame. So you've had friendship with this person, donkey years, doesn't really matter, maybe about 5 years, 6 years, you might have even known that person all your life. You've had relationship with this person, you've moved from friendship, you progressed in relationship, now you are into courtship. It's important that courtship, you understand that courtship is the real deal. You are already sort of like warming up for preparing to marry. And in that case, it has to be short. It has to be short. Minimum, I think the statisticians or people that put out statistics there have said it should normally be about 6 months to not more than 2 years, because you're rehearsing for getting married here. So you have to set a time frame to that. So that's that. Then so when we get to the next slide, which is talking about what to do during courtship. So to do during courtship, the first thing, we just put it in very, very simple terms here. first thing is that you have to be intentional. We talked about setting a time frame for courtship. Someone said something that, it's actually a scripture in Amos 3:3. It says, can two walk together except they be agreed? And that's very, very important. You cannot have someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with and not agree, or not, they talk about opposites attracting. Opposites attract, yes, but you also have to have certain things, certain areas where you connect, such as your values. You have to have non-negotiables. It's during courtship you begin to look at critically about that person's, strengths, their weaknesses, the things they do. Some people, just can just tell a white lie. Some people are ready to just give off what's the word now, a few people during courtship. That's when you begin to realize that they're just they let things slide. So during that intimate, or what when I say quasi-intimate period, that's when you begin to see what that person is intricately, and you try as much as possible to divulge your emotions off of this. Then during courtship, we also talk about your goals, your short-term goals, your long-term goals, your medium-term goals, and all that. You begin to talk about things, really, really serious things that you've not talked about in friendship and whilst you were in relationship. They always talk about, in marriage, there's, marriage has three pivotal areas. You talk about communication, you talk about finances and all that. It's during this particular period that you begin to see this person, and you begin to, talk about things that, that really, really matter to the other person. So you talk about your goals, you talk about where to live. Essentially, if you're going to have children, how many children, your parenting styles, where you're going to have holidays, who's going to work when, you're in certain areas of your life and all that, and it's also very, very important that you talk about conflict resolution. And, when we're in medical school, myself and my wife, I remember back then, we had a lot of areas that were quite immature in. We used to get angry with each other. And I remember there was actually a time we got to a point in our relationship where we realized that our conflicts were always almost every week. And we had to sit down and talk to ourselves and, say to ourselves that, what do we do? How do we get to a point where we don't leave each other on that day getting angry with the other person, And we had to say that anytime we get angry, we have to establish that both of us cannot be angry at the same time. One person always has to step down for the other, So when she's angry, or when both of us are angry, we told ourselves there's always a need for someone to be wiser. And that really, really helped us. I remember that was about our fourth year in medical school, and we spent up to about 7 years. So you can imagine, and we still had the internship after medical school and becoming doctors, and we still had another year. So it was about 4, 5, 6 years before we got married. And, we had to get to the point because we realized that we were getting a lot of conflicts and all that. So, and it's also important that you develop yourself during courtship. You learn to understand the other person, your communication, and your likes and your dislikes. And very, very important, people talk about forgiveness, especially when you get into marriage. So like I said, courtship is preparing or rehearsing for marriage. At some point we had to learn to forgive forward. And if you don't remember anything, this is one crucial thing you should remember. And so you have to learn to forgive the other person before the other person even makes the error. And that you're going to have to carry into marriage as well. So you have to learn to be open. So these are the things that we're talking about being intentional. We learned how to be open and real with each other. There was no trying to, be suave or trying to be, like unreal. I've gotten to know this person so much that, I could be real with her, I wasn't wearing any makeup. Initially, when I first met her, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go out with her, as a guy, there was a lot of makeup, so to speak. But during courtship, the mask literally went off, and she knew all my strengths and all my weaknesses and all that. So the first thing I've talked about now is about being intentional during courtship, and being intentional talks about all those things we've talked about, family, talking about holidaying, talking about your finances, what if you earn more than me when we get married? As a man of African descent, it's almost always a taboo that your wife should never earn more than you. But, things like that. I mean, my wife, literally, there were times when we got married that, I was literally a stay-home dad, and if during the relationship, I was a stay-home dad when we got to Australia for about 3-4 years, there about 3.5 years. And she was the one that, we came on a visa and all that. And to a large extent, I must say, if we hadn't discussed that during courtship, it would have become a source of conflict for us. So we had to resolve all that even before we got into it. So family life balance as well. You have to talk about that as well. I know my strengths. I love kids a lot. I've always been, before I went into medical school, I think I taught for about 2 years before going into medical school. So when we had our kids, when we had our first 2 daughters, I had to not homeschool. I taught them the rudimentaries of, getting into school before they went into kindy and pre-kindy and all those classes in Australia here. So, but she was working and she was earning, a fair deal amount of cash and all that. But we had to talk about those kind of things before we got into them. So those are the things you would literally have to talk about during courtship. So the next thing is apart from being intentional. So being intentional, I'll just wrap that up again, what I've just said. So we need to be intentional about our finances, family, holidaying, family planning, how many kids, conflict resolution, and self-development, forgiveness as well, your likes and dislikes, your strengths. Then the next thing about it is also during courtship, you have to learn to be creative as well. So you have to learn to be creative about your time. We lived in today's world is a hypersexualized world, and I understand here today in today's world, it's all about people. Most people, if you take a random poll now and you go to the streets and you ask, what do you think people should do during courtship? I bet, 70% of people would say there's nothing wrong with, being intimate sexually and all that. But for us, we had to, as being Christians, we had to set those boundaries. We had to tell ourselves that these are the things we're doing during courtship. We knew sex for us was off the table. We knew, being hyper romantic was off the table, and we had to focus on each other's, getting to know the other person literally, because at the end of the day, when you get married, sex is going to be, you're going to get to a point where that is, you have so much of it that if all that was the foundation of what your courtship was, then you make a shipwreck of it, so to speak. So we actually learned each other's, we learned to be creative with our time. And one of the main things that we were creative about was, for us, we knew we were going to build something long lasting. So we had to be creative about things like, prayer. We had to be creative about things about playing games, working on, mini projects. When we're in medical school, like I said, 8 years of our time was spent in medical school, and both of us at some point, we had a business. And during that business ran for about a year before everything went pear-shaped, so to speak. But it was in that, medical school that we ran a business. It was a cafe, it was like a restaurant whilst we were medical students and all that. And it was excellent up until, things happened and we hadn't learned a lot about finances and all that. And we made a mess of it by, people we employed and all that. But those were the things I noticed about my wife when we were, courting. So we had a lot of date nights, we had a lot of fun, we had a lot of going to the movies and all that, So we're being creative about our time, and today we make a reflection back onto what happened in medical school and, how creative we were with our time, so to speak. Then the third thing is about being accountable. So for us, we knew it that, they say it takes, if you want to build something, you need to stand on the shoulders of people that have actually gone in that particular, way. If you're trying to go somewhere, then you need to, ask, about, people who have been there. Like you're a doctor, for crying out loud, and you were being taught by doctors. So you didn't just pick up a textbook and start reading. So that was it for us. So we looked at people and we're like, okay, who were these people that we wanted to model our marriage on? Because we knew it would lead to marriage. We didn't have a few people in our community that we looked at them And, some of them were 10 years into marriage. Some of them were 30 years into marriage. Some of them were 50 years into marriage. And that's a sad thing about today's world. And as much as it happens here, it happens back home in Nigeria as well, where you have people wanting to go their own way. I think there's that advert about, I'm not sure, there's a particular advert on the TV these days that talks about go your own way and all that. People here want to go their own way. They don't believe in being accountable to other people. And that's quite sad, because in any field you find yourself, if you're a worker, you find out that you have a superior and you listen to the superior, because the superior's got more experience than you have. So the same thing also happens with marriage and courtship as well. So we just literally picked up people that we really, really loved, and we felt, okay, these guys have done well for themselves, and we were deliberate about it. We were intentional about it, like I said earlier. So we looked at people that had actually gone 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, and that helped us. So these are the things that we learned to do in marriage, in courtship, and the things we learned not to do in marriage. Like I mentioned earlier, like we live in a hypersexualized world, so it's all about experimenting and all that. So for us, we knew that was a no-no for us, and we avoided acting like we were already married. And there's a saying that, goes that, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? So why buy the milk when you can get the cow for free? Sorry. So we knew that those were areas that we weren't going to go into. And and I think for me as a person, I respected my wife more when I realized that she had those set of values that I had as well, back in the day. And, that made me respect her more even today that we're married. So, essentially, those are, in a nutshell, what you get to do during courtship. And it's important that you don't blur the lines, learn to focus on your goal and don't get distracted. So I think I've spoken more for about 10, 15 minutes now. I'll just let Deborah take the reins from here.
All right. Thank you everyone for attending this meeting, and sorry about our media and all of that. I hope we'll be able to wrap things up quite quickly. I know it's getting a bit late. So everyone has said so many things about friendship, relationship, courtship, and all of that. I'm just going to talk briefly about preparing for marriage, and just 3 highlights I'm going to talk about. Of course, there are so many things to do. So like from the physical perspective, preparing for the wedding day itself, where am I going to have my honeymoon, my wedding dress, and all of those nice, beautiful stuff, which is all fine. But I think there are some things that are more critical and important when preparing for marriage. So I think the first thing is preparing your mind. I think the thing about your mindset, what do you think about marriage? Because there's something about, there's a saying that goes that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So sometimes for example, in medical school, when you're about to write an exam, you're so scared about the exam, and then you've already failed the exam in your mind before you even go to write the exam. So you feel you're going to fail, and then you've already failed it before you go. So don't fail the exam before you go in. In other words, don't fail the marriage before you go into the marriage. So, the statistics are there in terms of how marriages last. I think I had a quick Google on what the statistics of divorce and the length of marriage in Australia is, and it was like an average of 8 to 12 years. Most marriages would be separated between 5 to 9 years, and there was about 40,000 to 50,000 divorces in Australia every year from 2021. So I think, of course, a lot of people have those kind of statistics in their mind. I'm like, so why get married when it's going to probably fail anyways? Or maybe they're coming from a broken home. Their parents probably separated when they were young. Their sisters are having problems in their marriage. The next person they know has problems. The other person is going through domestic violence. And we see all these problems, and it can actually poison our minds against marriage. Like, is marriage really worth it when eventually you're going to get your heart broken anyways, or you're going to have problems anyways? So I think the first thing is that we need to correct any myths and misconceptions, like any wrong misconceptions we have about marriage, because there's really no point going into marriage when you think, it might not work anyways. Maybe it will work. Let's see how it goes. But I think to go into something with thinking it's going to fail, it's actually a wrong perspective. So I think the first thing is to examine ourselves and talk to each other, because yes, you can have misconceptions, which is fine, but then, just communicate and talk it through and try to dispel those myths and those mindsets. And how do we do that? I think it's by changing our focus. Because if you're focusing on all the wrong marriages and all the marriages that are going sour, then that's all you can see, and that's what it's what's going to happen in your life eventually. But then change your focus, because I believe that there will be marriages that have worked and are working. So change your focus to those marriages that are working and those that have worked, and begin to look at them, because I believe that those ones that are working, there's something that they are doing, or there's something that they have done that is different from what the others did, or is either they're doing something that the others did not do. So what did this person do to be married for 40 years and 50 years and still happily married? So because in life there are always principles. Principles govern everything that we do in this life. So the question is, what are the principles that makes a marriage work? What are the principles that make for a successful business? Because the truth about it is that when we start to run our marriages or our families like a business, then we become more efficient and more effective. Because sometimes we just say, oh, it's just family, it's just marriage, whatever, we just do whatever we can. If we just do whatever we can or whatever we want, the way we want it, then we just get any kind of result. But if you're at work and you're running a business, you know that the staff have to be here at 7 a.m. We have to have monthly meetings. We have to have, everything is written. You have policies, you have procedures, you have strategies, you have everything written down, because you have an outcome that you're looking towards. But why is it that when it comes to things like marriage, we just want to do it the way we want, the way we please? And that's why we're not getting results. So the question is, if I have any wrong mindsets or misconceptions about marriage working or not working, then I need to look at marriages that have worked. Why have they worked? What are the principles? And I need to change my mind. So the first thing is prepare your mind. Again, there's no perfect marriage. But every marriage that is happy today is because they worked at it. It's because they did something. They put the work in. So prepare your mind that marriage is work, and I'm ready to work on it. And I'm ready to do the work to get the outcome that I desire. So desiring marriage is a good thing. So let's try not to allow things that we have seen around in the world to poison our minds against it. If you desire to be married, it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing. And we're going to work at it. When things get, what's that saying?
When things get broken, you don't throw them away, you fix them.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like when a mirror gets broken, or when something gets broken, you don't throw it away. Back in the day, you fix them. But nowadays, I know a lot of things, when it's broken, you throw it away, you get a new one. And that's what we try to teach our kids. Like when maybe the toy gets broken or something gets spoiled and all of that, my husband would take that toy and try to fix it. He would put a tape around it, put a super glue, put it together, and try to teach our children a lesson that you don't just throw things away because they are spoiled. No, you fix them. And those are lessons we are teaching them from a young age, because it's all changing in this generation. All right, that's prepare your mind. I think the next thing would be prepare yourself. So the next thing would be prepare yourself. So, and really, marriage is actually a union of two people, two whole people. So two wholesome people. When two people come together in marriage, they become one. And it's actually 1 + 1 = 1. Not half plus half equals 1. Because you don't go into a marriage hoping that the other person is going to fix you. Or maybe because you have some issues, you have some problems or some issues, some baggage that you've been trying to deal with, and then you're trying to find a relationship so that the other person can fix you. That's already a very, very poor foundation to go into a marriage with. Or you have financial problems or something like that, and you're going to a marriage for the other person because of the other person's finances. So you're looking for a sponsor, not a marriage partner. I don't have so much money and I just need someone that's going to help me so that I can be able to pull through. So marriage is supposed to be a union. Of course, nobody is perfect, but it should be a union of two whole people, not two half people. And it's two givers, not two receivers looking for what they can get. It's for what they can give, to make that marriage work. And basically, marriage is also, it's about the value that you bring to the table. So in talking about preparing yourself, it's about a commitment to continuous growth and development. So I can't, a relationship thrives on how much value we bring to the table. It's not about, like we're talking about physical attraction and all of that. To be honest, we know, and I'm sure we've over the years, physical attraction does not keep any marriage. I mean, you could start, oh, she looks beautiful and this, that, and all of that. But after 10 years, she's not looking the same way. She's had children. Her boobs are saggy. She has become fat. All sorts of things have happened to her. She doesn't look the same way. So will you still be in love? So if that love was based on physical attraction, then you'll be disappointed, because that's not, you won't be able to keep the marriage. But we know that what sustains a marriage are things that are not physical. So we need to focus and build on the things that are not physical. So the question is, what value am I bringing to the table? For example, my husband, so the things that attracted me to him, and that's what we need to focus on. What attracted me to him was that he was a go-getter, and he always tried to bring out the best in me. So every time he always tells me, you can do it. He always, he studies me. He sees that, okay, there was a like a course we had, and we're supposed to do a presentation, and he was one that kept telling me, Deborah, you can get an A in this course, a distinction in this course. And I was like, oh no, I don't think. He said, you can do it, and he always kept on bringing out the best. That's what attracted me to him. Until today, he's still that person, and vice versa. And the thing about it is the value that we both bring to the table that keeps the marriage. So for example, even as we're planning to get married, and as we get married, I keep developing myself. I keep working on myself to be a better person, to be a better version of myself. That's what keeps him attracted. But if by the time we get married, I just become lazy, I'm not becoming a better person, I'm just static, not doing anything, not improving myself in any way, those are things that can affect a marriage. She's no longer attractive. What's going on? She's no longer attractive, not even physically, even in her character. So I just want to say that in preparing for marriage as well, one of the things we need to tell ourselves, you need to develop yourself. You need to make a commitment to continuous growth, learning, development, improving, and being a better version of ourselves. And that's what makes us a wholesome person, and we're not going to be a burden to the next person. The other thing is in developing ourselves as well, as we prepare for marriage, we need to read books. So we need to, I think a lot of people have talked about mentorship and coaching and things like that. To be honest, any successful venture, whether career, sports, relationship, marriage, parenting, Pastor Peter always says it requires a coach. You require a coach or a mentor. It requires work, effort, discipline, and it also requires coaching. So Pastor Peter will say that he has never seen anybody that was the best in sports or something like that, and that did not have a coach. And the truth about it is that you don't really have to have a physical coach. A lot of people have coached and mentored us through their books, through their podcasts. We've never met them before, but we've learned so much with the things that we are reading. You don't need to make the mistakes that other people have made. So for example, someone who is married for 50 years or thereabouts and has written a book, she has written all the secrets in a book. I don't need to meet her. I just read that book, and then I don't make the mistakes that they made. And that way, I'm priming myself for success. So we need to develop ourselves, read books on marriage, prepare for marriage, and then have counseling. I know that I don't know whether that's something that's really done in this part of the world, but back in Africa, we used to have premarital counseling before marriage. And to be honest, that is very important, because the truth about it is that having premarital counseling is being proactive and not being reactive. Because a lot of times it's when things get bad and then we are in trouble. Then we start looking for the counselor, help. And we start looking for what to do. But you need to be proactive, and that's one thing. And of course, you have to get trusted people, people that, you can trust, and people that are reliable and can give you good counsel. In counseling, that's where you talk about finances. They open up things that you never even thought about. Talk about finances, things like joint account, whether we'll have a private and personal account or joint account, how you can be accountable to each other, past girlfriends, past relationships, passwords, social media account. There are so many different things. Intimacy, people have had issues, trauma in their past, abuse, and so on and so forth, that hasn't been dealt with. And then they carry all that baggage into marriage. without dealing with it, without talking about it. And then, of course, it's a foundation for problems. So premarital counseling, to be honest, I believe is always very important. You have premarital counseling, you have counseling during marriage, and ongoing. So that's one of those. That's the other way. Those are the ways to prepare yourself. So I've talked about prepare your mind, prepare yourself, and the last thing I'll talk about, so that I don't bore you, is prepare your vision. So I'm a Christian, so I'll just say there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Where there's no vision, the people perish," and when there's a scripture also that says that write the vision and make it plain so that whoever reads it can run with it. So it's really important that you and your spouse have the same vision. So a vision is like, you're going towards a particular goal, and you're going in the same direction. I mean, there's really no point in the way you're thinking, okay, in the next 5 years, I see myself as a career woman. I see myself having done my master's, done my PhD, become this, become that. And your partner, on the other hand, what he sees is you being a housewife, having 4 kids already, and you are not thinking in the same direction at all. You are thinking in different ways. And that's already a foundation for problem. So coming up with your vision, your goals, and merging them, seeing how your plans and your goals can merge together. So, for example, he probably has a plan. He wants to be, he wants to do this and that in his career. How can we merge it together? How can we do it so that one person is not feeling cheated and left out? Especially for we ladies, sometimes you find out, that you're just giving birth to children and having children, and he is going up in this career ladder, and he's become the CEO of his organization, and you are just there having children. And what you really wanted to do was to be, a doctor or whatever it is, and then you're filled with resentment, and before you know it, there's problem in the marriage. So those are things that need to be discussed. Your vision, your values, so your non-negotiables, things that you believe in, and then it needs to be written down. We wrote down a few things then. We had some things that we wrote down then, but it's really important, because anything that is not written down, any vision that is not written down, is as good as non-existent, because you cannot refer to it, you cannot go back to it, you cannot run with it, essentially. So I think it's very important to discuss all these things, keep records, write down, and of course, it's a continuous discussion, continuous communication, and The last thing I'll say in terms of preparing for marriage, I don't think I'll talk much about the physical preparations, like, wedding and wedding dates, wedding accessories, honeymoon, accessories, wedding gown and all that, which are all very beautiful and important. I'll just give a few advices on that. Stick to your budgets. It's just one day. You don't have to blow your bank account because you want to get married. What is important, the marriage is more important than the wedding. The marriage itself is more important than the wedding. So that's why I talk more about the marriage, preparing for the marriage, focusing on the marriage itself rather than the wedding date. And the other thing, I just have one word for singles out there. I know that it might not be so much out here in Australia, but like back home, there can be a lot of pressure on single ladies, especially as you get older, to get married. So you can have that pressure, and then you're taking that pressure, you're looking for a husband, and then you settle for anybody, anything that comes, whatever. I just want to get married. I'm tired of being lonely. And there's that pressure. Marriage is a journey. It's not a destination. So so we need to make sure that we are not under pressure. Live your life. Live your single life. Enjoy your singleness, because when you are married and then you have the children and then you have all the responsibility and all of that, you wish you were single sometimes, because you don't have, your time is not your own, your life is not your own, nothing is yours anymore when you get married. So while you are single, be focused, build yourself, improve yourself, work on yourself, live your life, enjoy it, make up your mind. I will enjoy my singleness. I will enjoy my single life. Do all the things that you want to do. Don't wait until, when I get married. No, do the things you want to do. Do the things you plan to do. And if you're a Christian and you believe in prayer, pray about it. Trust God for it. It will happen. But don't let it be your focus, and don't be pressured. Believe in God. Enjoy your life. Live your best life now. Thank you.
All right, so that's what that's all from us. And we hope you've been able to glean one or two things. There's absolutely no way we'll be able to talk about marriage and courtship, or courtship and marriage, as it were, in 2 hours. Or one that you will need for yourself have been highlighted here. So thank you very much, Pastor Peter, and we hope to get some questions now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Andrew and Dr. Deborah. I think you've done more than justice. Thank you very much. I'm very, very grateful. Any questions, any contributions, any additions? We have just 4 minutes to vacate the premises. So the floor is open. Anybody has a question online, a question in the house? Yep.
Thank you so much to everyone for sharing. My question was a general one about relationships, dating, and courtship involving family and parents. I feel like a lot of times, depending on what culture you're from or how your home situation is, it's hard to have that discussion with your parents about dating and relationships. A lot of the time, you could bring it up and it's like, oh, why are you talking to me about that? Or it can be the situation where they don't want to hear about it until you're ready to marry someone. But it'd be nice to have that mentorship and that counseling from the people in your home. So if anyone here has any advice regarding bringing up that conversation with parents and how to get them involved in a healthy way, that'd be appreciated.
Parents initiating the conversation, or children initiating the conversation with parents. Anybody want to contribute?
Yeah, that's a very good one. And I think starting that conversation from home is very positive. In African setting, probably we are not able to go forward. Our parents don't really talk much about that. But as we grow, we can be a bit nosy. Mommy, how did you meet daddy? How did you go about it? Why did you choose daddy? No matter how much it takes. Even the Bible says if someone comes to you knocking at your door often, sometimes you just give up and give whatever he wants to him so that you be free. They'll give up at a point in time, give you the necessary answers, and from there it's just a build-up. You keep on discussing with them, and probably they might be the best people. Other than that, you should have trusted family members, leaders like Pastor Peter. Some friends would be very knowledgeable about that as well. But trust me, the parents, starting from the parents, would be very positive. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to add, or there's another question online, I want to give that one. Okay, you want to add to this? You want to add to this?
I just wanted to say that depending on the home you are coming from, if your parents are not starting the conversation, then you should push it, because that is the best place to get all the information you need. Peers might give you something that you don't really need, and so they are at your level, and then the thinking ability is almost the same as you. But your parents are matured in that instance, and they can give you the best. So you can push it. I've got smaller kids who would like to push it. So if you keep on going, I know from our black family, it could be hard, but if you keep asking and if you keep going, that would be very helpful. Your parents first, and then any member of the community that you revered also,
Thank you. There's a question online. It said, what advice will you give to singles who currently don't have a partner in the waiting period? So you are 22, 25, you are 30, you are single, you are ready, you don't have anybody at the moment. What advice will you give to such a person?
I would say particularly, let me speak on both ends, both genders. For the ladies, you should be a cooperative, agreeable, feminine. When I say feminine, I don't mean what the world is doing now. Now they tell you we have, alpha female. What is that? But what I want to say is that as a female, as a young adult, you should be agreeable. And these are the things the men of today are looking out for. They are looking for these things we call values. You are agreeable, you are feminine, you are disciplined, you are attractive, and you are somebody who has some intellect to offer to the man. Now for the men, what are the women looking for? They are looking for people who are resourceful. A man should be a go-getter. You should be competitive, because that is the world we find ourselves. You should be able to compete with all other men. You should be a provider, a protector. These are the things that people are looking in order to, lock into relationships. Not necessarily, particularly I'm very, very much concerned about the women, because I'm an advocate for women. Let me make this plain. And I find a lot of women who are beyond 30 and they want to settle down, and it has become a problem. So how do we deal with this? And that is why I keep telling women that it is not being career-oriented. People even want to be like individual-driven, and they have other people from the community who support that idea. It doesn't help women. It doesn't help. You need somebody to support. You need somebody that you can also offer some support so you can grow together. That's my take.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to add? So the person is ready. He hasn't got anybody. And
what I would say is that keep it open. Keep your expectation not too high, so that your options are very wide, and out of that you are able to attract that one person that will get to you. So just keep it open, but in the meantime that you haven't gotten anyone, just do whatever you are doing. Keep making life and appear at places where you will be seen, because if you are in the dark, then you are likely not to be seen. So try and go for conferences like this. You should be here. Church, community programs. Try to put yourself out there to be resourceful. And definitely you will be spotted out. And I just wanted to say something about the marriage and courtship thing, that there are times that we read textbooks, and you know what? You get into the marriage proper and realize that those stuff that you've read in the books are not what is coming up. It's sort of different. People write books with their own perspectives. And marriage is different for everyone. It's very different for everyone. The dynamics are interesting. And some people have been able to hold on to it, and they are hitting 50, they are hitting 40. So when you read somebody's perspective of marriage and you want to apply same to yours, you are likely to fail. So what I usually tell young people, we've got young people that we coach, what I usually tell them is that getting into the marriage, just be a reasonable human being. And with God on your side, everything will be okay. Just be a reasonable human being, in the sense that a reasonable human being will know that my wife is tired, I have to support. Will know that my wife is the one bringing the money. And so as a man, I don't have to show, that's not when I have to show that I'm a man. I have to be reasonable and support the woman. A reasonable human being will know that my wife just had a baby. I have to support. Just be reasonable. Your partner is reasonable, and you can work it out. Because the textbooks is just not helping some of the ladies that we've been talking to. They get into it and they realize that, no, but this didn't happen. You should have done that. Your man is different. Your woman is different. Thank you.
Thank you. Recently, I saw a post where a young man went to an elderly man and asked him that career development, like what career should I choose? What should I study in uni? And the old wise man said that just be a good person, because that department, there are not enough people. So just be good, okay? So the single guy looking for somebody, preparing yourself, just be a good person. I think Dr. Deborah said something like that. Develop yourself. Work on yourself. And at the right time, you attract somebody. If you haven't met the person yet, just live your life. If you are a student, go to school, study. If you are a worker, be the best worker. Whatever you are doing, aspire to be the best. And the best will always attract the best. You will find somebody along the way. The speakers online want to contribute. So, Dr. Deborah and Dr. Andrew, if you can hear us, you can contribute to the question.
To add to what everybody has said about being single and expecting to have a partner and all of that, I think as much as possible, to be honest, not everybody is going to get married. That is the reality of life. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic or anything, but the truth about it is that we need to, like I said, live your best life now. Don't let that be the focus, like I have to get married, I want to get married, because if we become, before we know it, we become desperate. And if we become desperate, we can end up making wrong decisions. So like everybody has said, yeah, put yourself out there, do what you need to do, but at the same time, just make sure that you are enjoying your life and you're doing what you need to do. Because if you end up being depressed and being sad and being down because of this, then nobody will want to come around a depressed person or a sad person. So that is one. The other thing I just wanted to also say was just that there, in this life, there are principles, even in the Bible, there are principles that govern everything. And we need to all work from those principles for anything to be successful.
Yeah, so I'll just say it's very important and pertinent that we get to that realization that we are all creatures of God. Okay, Deborah said it, not everybody is going to get married. Of course, most people will get married, but most important is that you draw your relevance and you draw your satisfaction from your relationship with God. Because really, like she mentioned, people today are quite driven and like, oh, I just want to get married. I just want to get married. And Deborah alluded to it earlier on that marriage is not a goal. It's not a destination, so to speak. It's a journey. So if you look at it that way, and all what you want to get is, I just want to get married, and you're probably setting up a goal that this year I must get married, this year I must get married, you're setting up yourself for heartache. God holds your time. We believe that as Christians. God holds your times, and he knows when you're going to get married. He knows who you're going to get married. What you need to focus on is just to focus on yourself, build yourself such that by the time you see the person you're going to get married to, there will be that connection. You're not worried about it. Worry helps no one. You're just going to build up yourself for anxiety. Set up yourself for anxiety. So it's important we understand that we draw our relevance and we draw our purpose from the one who created us, not from a man, not from a woman. So it's very, very important. I would just like us to take that home and understand that nobody completes you except God. Because if you put that kind of pressure on yourself, by the time you meet your partner, you're going to transmit that onto that person. And if that person falls short of that expectation, then you'll be in trouble. But I believe that's just what I'll say for today. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I know you've been attending a conference all day. You've been very tired, but you've logged in and joined us in this session. Thank you very much for attending. For those online, thank you very much for making it. We hope next year by this time, some of you would have changed your story. If not, just come again. We will give more information, more knowledge, and then we'll get better as we prepare for the right person. So that's the end of the session. We want to thank C3 for giving us the venue for free and helping with all the technical issues. May God bless you all and have a great weekend. God bless.